Welcome to the Armchair Fantasy Show from Going for Two. I'm your host tonight, Ryan Searfoss. Geoff has a sniffle, so he's not going to be making it tonight. But we have an awesome show. We have the guys from the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. And remember to make sure to check us out at Going for Two every night of the week. And we're on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and everywhere you can find podcasts. So, hey guys, welcome to the show. We got Derek, Kevin, and Alex. Kevin, you were here first. We'll start with you. What do you got? Where can everybody find you? And tell us a little bit about your show.
So they can find us at GoodOldBoysFF. Really anywhere social media is. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our website is www.goodoldboysff.com. And really that's kind of the focal point. We all kind of share access to that. So any sort of questions, dialogue back and forth, feel free to toss it out there. And that's going to be the easiest way to communicate with any of us. As far as the show goes, we got started, I think just over a year and a half ago now. And it was just kind of the concept of, hey, like Derek and I were kicking around the idea of, let's do something, right? Like we like fantasy football. We've been playing for years together. Like, let's just, have some fun with it. Let's get on, kick it around, talk about it. And we set everything up. Derek really steamrolled the whole thing for us. And the very first show, I couldn't make it. I had a work obligation, and Alex was just a guest spot from one of our buddies in the league that we were in. And Alex, did such a great job. Derek's like, hey, I want to bring Alex on and let's make it a threesome. And, I said, what the hell? Let's do it. And so now we're a three-headed monster instead of just the dynamic duo.
Yeah, I got roped into this. I was just supposed to be the first episode's guest, and now here we are a year and a half later.
Every time. Everybody gets snuck onto a podcast one way or another, whether they want to or not. But it's fun once you do. So, you guys, anything else you guys are working on, or?
No, I mean that's the majority of it is we do our show live on Tuesday nights. We have the podcast version come out Thursdays and Fridays. We've got the website that we've been posting rankings and all of that kind of stuff too. And that's, kind of the next thing for us coming out is really releasing those rankings for redraft and really starting to gear up towards the season.
Awesome. Well, we're going to hop right into the news and notes. We have to do a pretty jam-packed episode tonight. And remember, our news and notes is brought to you by the Dynasty Draft Calculator. Everyone hates bad offers, and you don't want to be that guy sending out crap. So with Dynasty Trade Calculator, for just $15 a year, you can see if you're making the right decision and sending the best trade offers. Remember, it's only $15 a year. It's definitely worth doing. So the news tonight, Derek, we're going to start with you. They're saying Cortland Sutton says the game plan is for him to be ready for training camp. You find it that he's healthy and ready to go?
Yeah, I do. You look at it typically with those ACL injuries, that's about a year-long recovery type of thing, and they've actually shortened that timeline up over the last few years, and we've seen guys bounce back from that earlier and earlier. And the fact that happened very early in the season last year, I wouldn't put it past him to come out better than ever when it comes down to this season and be ready for camp. Everything that that's where I'm at over here in Denver, and every beat reporter and everything that we see coming out says that he's all signs for systems a go when it comes to camp.
I did not realize you're in Denver. That's awesome. So with healthy Jerry Jeudy, who I just absolutely love, fan in this offense, looking to have a lot of weapons. Do you guys have faith that Drew Lock is going to come out and ball this year, or at least show some improvement?
I think we're all waiting for June 2nd to arrive.
Yeah.
I have thoughts. Yeah, obviously, best case scenario is June 2nd, and one Aaron Rodgers comes from Green Bay. But if it is Drew Lock and Cortland Sutton is back, Cortland Sutton's going to hide a lot of those flaws that Drew Lock possesses, or even a Teddy Bridgewater, because I really do think that if it's not Aaron Rodgers, it's wide open when it comes to week one with that quarterback battle. So I would say Cortland Sutton coming back, he was such a huge loss last year, and it really derailed that season, along with a number of other factors, and the fact that our quarterbacks were stupid and couldn't stay away from each other and all missed a game because of COVID. There's a lot of things that Cortland Sutton, there's a lot of warts that he can hide. And so him coming back is huge news for the Denver Broncos, and a healthy Cortland Sutton is good. Hell, even a Cortland Sutton at 65% would have been great last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then other guy we're talking who's been popping up is Zach Ertz is shown for a no-show for camp. Kevin, you think he's going to be sitting out the rest of the season? Or not sitting out the season? Do you think he's holding out until he gets traded, forced to trade? Like, are we going to see him in Philly this year at all?
I think that we're gonna see him get into camp as an Eagle, and then as everything kind of progresses, I think there's probably about 60% chance the Eagles are able to get him traded. I'm not worried about him sitting out. I think part of it is he's been in the league for 9 years now. He's an established pro. He knows how to take care of his body. The Eagles just released that they're really kind of dumbing down all this off-season workout stuff, and even what they're doing once they get into training camp is the agreement that the players from the Eagles and the ownership met on. So I'm not too worried about him not participating in the voluntary workouts and even the beginning of the mandatories, because there is trade rumors. He's a little disgruntled with, how the situation played out last year. So all in all, they'll get things fixed. I do think there's a 60% chance he gets traded, but I do think another team's going to have an injury or a real setback to want to bring someone in on basically a 1-year rental before he's probably going to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, I mean, with his age, he doesn't need to be at camp, even though it would be nice for their rookie quarterback. But, yeah, I'd like to see him go somewhere else, but free Dallas got air, but that's all right. Alex, we got Matt Nagy is reiterating with that Andy Dalton is their starting QB in 2021. You buying this at all? Is this just coach speak?
Oh, no, I'm absolutely buying it. You don't sign a dude for $10 million. The week 1 starter. After that, all bets are off. I think Justin Fields, it just depends on his development through camp, how he can adjust to the speed of the NFL. But I absolutely think that Andy Dalton will be the week 1 starter in Chicago. And I don't see Justin Fields being quite ready to take that week 1 role. Now, Matt Nagy will tell you that Andy Dalton is the 1 starter. You ask any Chicago Bears fan, and they're chomping at the bit to see Justin Fields get on the field.
I mean, if you guys trade for Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields might be the best quarterback in the division already.
Yes, that Kirk Cousins is still serviceable up there in Minnesota. Now he's not great, but he knows how. I mean, Kirk Cousins can dominate in garbage time like nobody's business, and that's what he's been having to do the last couple of years. But he does really good when the game's already out of control.
We got a user question pop in from Gerson. He's always here for the show. He said, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Broncos, who you guys taking, Jerry Jeudy or Jamar Chase? Kevin, we'll go to you on this one.
I'm going Jeudy at that point. For redraft, I'm going Jeudy. For the simple fact of you have an established all-pro quarterback who knows how to read a defense and put guys in the right situation. Denver's offensive line is set up a bit better than what the Bengals are, so you don't have to worry about some of that. And it just, as talented as Jamar Chase is for this single upcoming season, if Rodgers is in Denver, I will take Jerry Jeudy for this season and let Chase develop and then draft him next year.
How about you? How about for dynasty purposes?
For dynasty purposes, I'm probably still looking at Jeudy. Yeah, I'm still going with Jeudy there. I do like if Aaron Rodgers is there. Yes, I'm doing it. I'm going that direction. I'm going with the hometown guy.
I see Alex shaking his head.
Yeah,
what do you think here? I mean, I think Jamar Chase is unbelievable talent. Like, and I love Judy last year, but what do you think there, Alex?
Well, in Dynasty, the only reason that I like Chase more there is because Aaron Rodgers has 3, maybe 4 years left, maybe 5 years left in the league. Joe Burrow just got started. So I like the idea of having the consistency of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase versus a Judy and what essentially, when it's all said and done, would be a rental quarterback. Now, I think during those rental years, they might be really, really good, but I would lean more towards Chase than Jerry Judy.
I'll take the exceptional route runner myself.
Yeah, I have to be honest on that. I said they're both great, but Jamar Chase is one of the most talented red receivers that we've seen come out in years, man. The way he took over in that national championship 2 years ago was unbelievable. And he was an unstoppable force all season. I think it's tight. Last question. Derek, we're going to go to you. The Giants are putting Kelvin Benjamin, signing him as a tight end. Is there any fantasy relevance to this? This could be a quick one.
You said that was going to me?
Yeah.
No fantasy relevance there. That's a hard pass for me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. Awesome. So first segment tonight, we're hopping some fancy buy or sells. Normally, Geoff pops some fancy music on and sound effects make it sound cool. Don't have them tonight. So we're going to hop right into it. And Derek, we had you first on here with the question. We got the top 5 PPR running backs in 2021 were Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Aaron Jones. With guys like CMC and Barkley coming back and all the stud second-year running backs from last year, buy or sell any of these running backs who were in the top 5 last year repeating this year?
There will be at least 1 or 2 of these guys in the top 5 next year.
Who do you think has the best chance to stay in there?
I think Dalvin Cook has the best chance to stay in there. You know, he's a true 3-down type of guy where he can get it both from the receiving and the running work. Derrick Henry definitely can get there. It does concern me a little bit that he just had that 370 plus rushing attempts. There's only been one running back we've seen in the last 30 years actually improve upon a season where they got over 370 carries, and that was Eric Dickerson back in the 80s. So I'm not buying that. I think we just saw his career year this past year. Aaron Jones, if he's there for if Aaron Rodgers is back with Aaron Jones, he can get there, right? He's coming off of where he finishes running back 2 and running back 5. So he can definitely get there. Montgomery, I think, is the odd man out for sure on that. But when you're talking, Cook, Kamara, Henry, Dalvin, all 4 of those guys could very easily end up as a top 5. And they're all very talented guys that you'll see end up there at the end of the year.
Yeah. Any fear with Kamara with the quarterback situation?
Yeah, that's kind of the one that I see probably falling out. Montgomery, I think, will finish out there, and then I think that's followed by Kamara having the best chance of finishing outside of that. But the other 3 can definitely get there. Aaron Jones with that Aaron Rodgers situation, that could put a damper on that as well. But I think for sure you'll see Dalvin Cook end up there, and I wouldn't put it past King Henry to still put up a top 5 type of season.
No, I agree. I think Henry's going to be really good until he's just not at all. I think it's just going to be all the 4 wheels fall off at once and it's gone. And shooting over the receivers, last year, 2 teams had 2 wide receivers in the top 12 with the Vikings and Seahawks. Kevin, buy or sell, the Cowboys can have 2 top 12 receivers this year with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb.
Sell.
Sell.
Amari Cooper's not going to get in the top 12. He'll be just outside, but Amari Cooper's not going to make it there. I think we are going to see a CeeDee Lamb explosion in Dallas this year. I think the Cowboys did a lot of really good things in the draft to focus on their defense. And quite frankly, I think the Cowboys aren't getting enough credit for their draft. Everyone wants to get kind of starstruck with all the offensive players and the shiny new toys. the Cowboys went back to basics and they drafted defense, linemen, linebackers, secondary. They touched every phase or every level of that defense. And with that, they're not going to be in as many shootouts, guys. They're going to have a lead in the fourth quarter a little bit more. So that means Zeke is going to get some more run. And as Zeke gets more run, I see that CeeDee Lamb kind of cements himself as the top wide receiver in Dallas, and Amari Cooper will finish outside of of wide receiver 12.
Where do you think the breakoff for they can both finish? We talking 15, 20, 24?
No, yeah, 15. I think he'll be top. I think he could be top 15 still. I just don't think he's going to get some of the Amari Cooper stats. Right, he has to be good at home because he's terrible on the road for the most part. And when you're terrible on the road, you become touchdown dependent. Well, as great as that offense is, there's so many stinking mouths to feed. CeeDee Lamb, like I said, I think he's going to explode. I think we're going to see a better Zeke Elliott. And Michael Gallup is in a contract year, which I really like. So he's going to be playing probably not for the Cowboys next year, but so he is going to be auditioning for every NFL team this season. And I expect him to kind of steal some of that red zone work. So top 15 because of volume for Cooper, absolutely. But he's not going to have the touchdown production to get inside the top 12 for me.
I agree. And I think that top 15 is going to come in a really ugly way for fantasy. Like, I think we'll see games with like 22 yards. And then we'll see like a 3-catch, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like that kind of plays out of him. Yeah, I agree completely on that, Matt. And then this one's for you. So there are two top 5 QBs that may not see. Wow, we're really on the Aaron Rodgers train tonight. So 2 top 5 QBs that have not played for the same team this season. So we buy or sell on Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson will not suit up for their teams for one reason or another.
I will buy that. If for nothing else, the hope that Aaron Rodgers lands in Denver, I will buy that. I really think that this Deshaun Watson and honestly, I haven't followed it very close. I know there's been some new developments, but I haven't been following it extremely closely over the last 2 weeks. But I really think that where there's smoke, there's fire here. And it's just going to be tough. I think the inside the facility relationship is done. And then there are some things outside of the facility that Deshaun Watson is going to have to deal with. A change of scenery might do everybody good in that situation. I'm not sure that Deshaun plays next year. I mean, that's kind of the seriousness of these allegations and how it needs to work their way through the legal system and whatnot. But I guess for the purposes of this question, I will buy that for selfish reasons on Aaron Rodgers, and then because of the so much uncertainty, both inside and outside of football for Deshaun Watson. I don't think he's playing for the Houston Texans again.
That's fair. And, I'm going to stick with you for this next question for buy or sell. We had 5 QBs go in the first round this year. You buying or selling all 5 of them starting by week 6?
Selling. And I think that would be the best way to go about things for some of these quarterbacks in these situations. We need to keep in mind Trey Lance is behind a quarterback that led a team to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. In San Francisco, and he is also we talked about an audition year. This is an audition year for Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think they're going to ride that horse as far as it'll take them. So I think if they're week 6, still too early to determine if a season is gone at that point. I think a couple of them will. I mean, obviously picks 1 and 2 will go. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, they'll be playing week 1. But I don't know that Trey Lance gets on the field by week 6. I'm 50-50 on Justin Fields at week 6. And then I'm fairly confident that Bill's going to take his time with Mac Jones, because I think there is a project there, and I think he wants to do it right, because this will really cement, as if it needed any more, but this will really cement the coaching job that Bill Belichick can do If he can bring Mac Jones along and have even close, I mean, even sniffing the amount of success that he had with Tom Brady. So I think I will sell this. 3 of the quarterbacks have a really good shot at starting before week 6. 2 of them, I don't think it would be wise to do that.
Yeah, and then you said Belichick. There's that ego thing where Brady won one without him. He's going to want to have his guy, bring up his guy there. Both of you guys kind of agree with him on that, with the selling all them, not starting by week 6?
Yeah, I do. I think copycat league, the NFL is, and we've seen the Patrick Mahomes model, right? You had Alex Smith with the Chiefs as Mahomes kind of developed for almost a full season. And then Mahomes got in right there at the very tail end of his rookie year. And then his second year, they turned over the reins and said, let's go. I think that the Niners, the Bears, and the Patriots would all like to adopt a similar procedure given the situation of their season. I think the Bears would be best to let Andy Dalton get run into the dirt. We were talking last night on our show. The Bears' schedule in the middle of the season is absolutely wretched, brutal. And that's not a situation that you want to put Justin Fields into in weeks 6 through 11, basically. He has the Niners, the Steelers, the Ravens, and then the Packers, and I think the one gimme game is the Lions in there. So that's a brutal schedule to introduce a rookie quarterback to. So for that, I will sell as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you look at it too, that New England offense is notoriously difficult to learn with that playbook, things like that. So I don't see Mac Jones picking that thing up and being able to be the starter to it. Also, depending upon how New England season's going, if they're going to make a changeover, I think it'll be probably after the bye week. So you're talking week 14 on that bye. So, put them in there for the last couple of games of the season. If the season's already foregone at that point, I don't think it will be. I think they'll be competing in that division and competing for a playoff spot. Same thing with Chicago. If they're going to make a changeover at the quarterback, I think it'll happen after the bye week, which is week 10 for them. And they'll see what they've got with Justin Fields towards that back half, but it's all going to depend on how they start that season off. So no, I'm selling that one down the river. I don't see anybody, all 5 of these guys getting in there and playing.
Sounded like from the consensus, we're only going to see 2 of them, 3 max by ends, which is completely outright. All right, next section we're doing up is stock up, stock down. Kevin, we'll start with you on this. Who's the player whose stock up went up for you post-draft?
For me, it was Zeke Elliott. Again, because the Cowboys went so heavy on the defensive side, I really like the idea that I can buy Zeke cheaper now than I've been able to get him in the last 4 seasons. And I think I'm going to get the exact same output that we've been seeing. I think he's going to be one of those guys that finishes inside the top 5 at the end of the year. So if I can get him off the board at running back 11, which is where he's going in redraft leagues right now, I'll sit at the back end of the draft, take Zeke, and then ride him to a RB top 5 finish. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that. So he's the guy whose stock went up for me because it cemented in my mind Dallas's ability to have a lead at the end of the game with an improved defense, and that means more volume for Zeke Elliott.
I love that one. I feel like the entire fantasy football community has slept on Zeke. And you're right, his world got a lot better, and we're including injuries and no Dak in his production from last year. He's not washed by any means. RB11, that's stealing.
Yeah, they're getting 3 offensive linemen back that were all injured last year. All the defensive players. Dak is the no-brainer that comes back and can manage that offense. There's too many things pointing in that direction for me to ignore when I'm drafting.
Yeah, and you can't stack the box against those receivers. You're insane if you do that.
No, yeah, good luck.
You're crazy if you do that. There, who's somebody that whose stock went up for you post draft?
For me, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold on this one, right? Like the Panthers took a 6th-rounder, traded it away to get Sam Darnold, brought him in, but they still didn't pick up that 5th-year option. It wasn't until they passed on both Justin Fields and Mac Jones that they went, all right, we're going to pick up the 5th-year option. So it's one of those that the team has now committed that they're going to go long-term here. They see him as being a viable future for them down there. And quite frankly, had they either drafted a quarterback or not picked up that 5th year, all of those things pointing a very big upward trend for Sam Darnold. Plus, he gets some amazing weapons down there with CMC, and that receiving core is just playing good. Them drafting Terrence Marshall in the draft as well, stacks that wide receiver core that was already good.
Yeah, I love Terrence Marshall. He's the perfect complement of what they have. So yeah, I really like the Darnold, especially for what we're getting him at value-wise in drafts. And
Yep.
Alex, he's somebody you're buying right now whose stock went up for post-draft.
Whose stock went up. I like a Jalen Reagor because of the Eagles bringing in Devontae Smith. And I think that opens up, it's going to be a stressor on the defense. We talk a lot about stressors, defensive stressors. And so we can get to see what Reagor could do. But with Devontae Smith on the other side of Jalen Reagor, it's going to open up some things. And so I like the trajectory that he's on, because the defense is going to be stressed. Which way are you going to roll the coverage when you've got those two guys on the opposite end of the field? It's going to be a pick your poison. Jalen Hurts with a year of full off season, knowing that he will be the guy, even though they won't say that he's the guy. We're not going to see Joe Flacco roll out there unless Jalen Hurts' knee completely explodes. So that to me is a guy that I think because of even adding a guy in the same position group, it's going to open things up. So I like his prospects. And you don't have to go and get, a rookie if you're in a dynasty league, because Devontae Smith's going to go fairly early. So you don't have to waste a high draft pick, and you can get a Jalen Reagor with the abundance of wide receiver talent that's out there. You can get a Jalen Reagor at a pretty reasonable value.
Yeah, and he was a first-round pick last year. It's not like he busted. He played 11 games. He was beat up. Everyone's kind of dropped him way too quick. I'm a Reagor supporter. He's been my guy for a long time. I'm completely on board with that. I've been waiting for somebody other than myself to bring him up for a while now, so I'm really happy about it. Let's stick with you on the flip side. Who's somebody who stock went down in the draft?
Hayden Hurst, whose stock wasn't, all that great to begin with. One of Kevin's favorite players. With Kyle Pitts being added to, I'm getting connection issues, so I apologize if. But with Kyle Pitts being added to that tight end room, as well not show up because that ball is going to go to Kyle Pitts.
Julio goes. Any faith that would help him a little?
Say it again.
I said if Julio ends up leaving post June 1st, any faith that Hayden Hurst get a little more volume out of it and have some relevance?
No,
or
absolutely not. I just don't see it. I think that Calvin Ridley's really good. Russell Gage is serviceable. And then you throw in the freak that is Kyle Pitts. I just don't see it. Hayden Hurst's best option is to get out of town.
Well, they pick up that 5th-year options. That's a possibility. Kevin, he said that's your guy. Do you have a little rebuttal to that? I see just rage kind of building up.
No, here's how I see the Falcons running this is I don't see Kyle Pitts playing in line very much at all. Like I see him being used as like Jimmy Graham in his prime type deal where Sean Payton would split him into the slot and let him do different things there. That way he gets the off coverage. He can run those short to intermediate routes if he needs to, but he has enough speed. He can get up the seam as well. So with having one tight end play offline, you have to have another one play online in most situations. So while I think the ceiling for Hayden Hurst is capped, and where last year I thought Hurst had, top 5 potential getting into that offense, that's definitely taken a step back. But I do see ways where Hayden Hurst is still going to be used inside that offense, and I'm not impressed with what they've done on the defensive side of the ball still. So I think they're going to be playing a lot of catch up. So is he a tight end 1? No, but in a 2 tight end league, I'm not afraid of Hayden Hurst at this point. Like, I will still take my shots in a 2 tight end league, or as a, if you like to carry 2 tight ends on your roster in a redraft, the guy that you can either stream or plug in on a bye week, and you'll get some production out of it. It's just not going to be earth shattering.
This poor guy just keeps getting behind top ends. Sucks for him. Just same thing with Baltimore is same here. Like, he's just had a bad luck of the draw. But teams haven't passed 600 plus times this year. That's a little bit of hope. All right, Derek, who's somebody you got whose stock went down post draft for you?
For me, it was Rashod Bateman. Like, one of those that, I know we typically look at existing players already in there, but Rashod Bateman was a guy that I was very excited to see what he could do in the NFL. And the fact that he ended up with Baltimore really kind of shot that for me, just from the standpoint that, you talk about volume and opportunity being one of the best abilities out there. You're going to a Baltimore team that's not going to throw the ball a ton. And even if he's getting a big piece of pie, that's a very small pie to begin with. So I'm just kind of out on Rashod Bateman at this point. That also goes for Hollywood Brown, who I'm a big fan of. So I'm out on all of Baltimore wide receivers at this point.
So I'm a Ravens fan. I feel personally attacked. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree at all. Like, I think Bateman's is a really good football move. Fantasy-wise, it may take a little bit of time for him to produce. I've said it before. I think the offense has to improve this year. And if it doesn't, the offensive coordinator, Greg Roman's gone. Because if they can't pass the ball, he's out of there. But they're a run-first team. They're built to run the ball. They play with the lead. They're not going to throw the ball 500 times. They're not going to throw 600 times. So the pie's not that big. They have him. Sammy Watkins is even going to eat into it the 3 games that he plays. Hollywood Brown's there, Tyler Moss, and Mark Andrews. There's not much to go around, so I agree with you. And Ertz. Rashod Bateman was my wide receiver 4. Actually, wide receiver 3 pre-draft. He's dropped to 5 now. I see it. I agree. Kevin, who you got for me? Who's somebody whose stock took the hit?
For me, it's Travis Etienne. I don't love the landing spot in Jacksonville. I understand the football reasons behind it. But as far as the fit and being able to get that kind of rookie running back run right out of the gate, there were so many better landing spots. Like, I thought he would go at the top of the second round to the Jets. Like, I really thought that's where he was going to go. He was going to go to the Jets. They were going to have Zach Wilson, Travis Etienne. They have Mims from last year and kind of build this new nucleus in New York and try and take that over. And he went to Jacksonville, where he's competing for touches with an undrafted guy in James Robinson, but James Robinson finished top 10. Like, he was no slouch last year. So there's obviously an incentive to play your first round draft pick. So yes, Etienne's going to get some run, but his draft stock did take a hit. Like, I kicked him down a round and a half just because of the situation. Urban Meyer's saying the third down back, we might play him at receiver, which I think is horse crap. Every NFL team has a package where your running back goes out wide. Like, that's no big surprise. He's not going to line up there 30% of the time. So it's just not the ideal situation for me. So he's a guy that I went from really liking the possibility of what his usage could be to I'd rather go Javonte Williams if I'm doing a dynasty rookie draft and trust the fact that he has 1 year with Melvin Gordon, and then I know he's the lead guy.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I hate the things that Urban Meyer is saying. Urban Meyer saying using him in the receiving position is what he should be saying about LaVisca Chenault, and not him. And him being drafted is they were literally replacing their best player on offense last year. None of it made sense. I agree. I'm kind of out on him as well. Not fully there with Javonte yet, but I still have him above him. Let's hit one more stock up for you guys. Kevin, we'll stick with you on this one. Another guy who stocks for you for this draft.
So another guy who went up for me, man, it has to be. It has to. Oh, good Lord. I was thinking about this and then it just kind of left me. But I think it has to be Tua, right? Like, and another forgotten quarterback, but he got another weapon and a guy that he's familiar with Jalen Waddle. That team in Miami continues to build that team from the inside out and really constructing it in a way that is going to give them opportunities to compete in the long haul. And he knows that Myles Gaskin's still going to be the lead back. That defense got a little bit stronger to continue to give him the opportunities. Plus the fact that he actually has a full offseason to prepare. He's another year away from the hip injury. He has a full offseason to prepare. So there were a lot of different factors with this, but I think Tua is a guy who's really sliding down draft boards based off of a very small sample size last year, who is I think he's going to be a very serviceable QB2, especially in Superflex leagues where you can wait on it a little bit, build your roster, and then you can grab a Tua and you're not going to be that much worse for wear.
No, and last year we thought everyone coming out was like, oh, give Tua a year to recover. He's not healthy yet. He's come back from his terrible injury. He gets in, and they do this chaos with Fitzpatrick, and everyone just like, oh, he's terrible now. He had no offseason, like you mentioned, and he's in a struggle. And you said they brought in Waddle. Everybody in the world's forgetting they also brought in Will Fuller every single time, who's an elite deep threat. That's a nice nucleus he has. I'm in on him. And if you can have as a QB2 in Superflex, that's great. Alex, let's get another stock up for you. Who's another guy you're buying post-draft?
Oh, you're way too positive for me. I was going to go with another stock down.
You know what?
But the problem was Derek took my other stock down, and it was Hollywood Brown because of it really was because of the log jam that is the receiver room there in Baltimore, and the fact that they're not throwing the football very effectively with Lamar Jackson. I guess if anything, I'll do a stock down on Lamar Jackson because we had such high expectations for him last year, and it just did not come to fruition for a number of reasons. Injury and COVID and all of that stuff. And it was probably not the best thing to see Robert Griffin III roll out there if you're a Ravens fan. But I can tell you what, it was probably more comfortable to see Robert Griffin III run out there than some dude from Wake Forest that didn't even really play quarterback, go play quarterback for a game in the NFL where he completed, what was it, 2 passes? It's so embarrassing. I don't even want to remember it. What was that dude's name? Hinton. Thank you. So it just, I'm on the rant here, but yeah, my stock down, my other stock down was Hollywood Brown and the other guys in that Baltimore wide receiver room.
The receivers might, but you mentioned Lamar going down. I think it's good for him, not individually.
I don't know. I think there is too much of a good thing in the NFL. And the problem is, I don't know that it's all that good there in Baltimore.
What do you mean, like too much of a good thing with them? Like the receivers, or what are you talking?
Yeah, there's just too many mouths to feed. You've got a lot of mouths to feed down there. I think we saw that. There was a lot of questions, and for what it's worth, Dak did a nice job with it. But when we saw the three-headed monster that he had to feed. And, oh, yeah, you still got to get your running back, 20, 25 touches every game to get him going. That's hard to do. And it's hard to do on a consistent basis to get all those guys involved and engaged. Dak was able to do that with Gallup and Cooper and why is the last name escaping me? Help me out. Thank you. CD Lamb. And still getting Zeke touches as well. But that's a skill. And it's a skill that I'm not sure that Lamar Jackson, who is, I hate to call him a one read tuck and run because it's not exactly what he is, but it's kind of, if it's not there, he's just going to try and get what he can get. And so if they're not there.
Fair enough. Derek, I'm going to say stock up unless your stock down is a different AFC North team. So what you got for me?
I could rag on the Broncos for a while too if you want.
The other one that I had as a stock up going into this one actually resides on the same team that Kevin just mentioned. That's Miami Dolphins. And Myles Gaskins is the guy whose stock I think it has risen and is a little bit safer than what we were looking at going into the draft. Like you thought that the Dolphins would go out and draft a guy in the probably a day 2 type of pick there and give him some competition there. And they really didn't. They brought in Malcolm Brown, but Malcolm Brown, and we discussed the Dolphins at length last night, but the Malcolm Brown's going to be, I really see him as almost what Jordan Howard was doing last year, be kind of that goal line thumper, get you 2 yards and move on type of thing. And so I think you'll see an uptick in what Myles Gaskin is going to do. He'll have more opportunity, more touches, and is a guy that's being drafted incredibly late, but will give you an incredible upside as well. So especially for a guy you can put on as your running back 3 or 4 on your team.
Love that one. Awesome. So we're going to hit some bold predictions. I want one bold prediction from each of you. Derek, we'll start with you here. What you got for me?
Oh, I've got 2 of them, but I'm going to go with, should I go with the boldest? I'm going to go with the boldest.
Go bold. Get spicy.
Go boldest. We'll go a little spicy here. Ryan Fitzpatrick makes the playoffs in the first time ever in his career, and the Washington football team wins the NFC East, becoming the first repeat of that division to win it since the 2003-2004 Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow. It sounds crazy, but it's not that crazy. Like they did that with much worse. They made the playoffs with much worse quarterback play last year.
Right. Well, and they got a whole lot better on the offensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball is still going to be a top 5 defense. Yeah, it's a top 5 defense.
That defense is really good. You can win with a good defense in the NFL.
Let's not forget that was that division last year was a case of who wants it, and nobody did. They got, Washington was the beneficiary of one of the injuries I refused to go back and watch there in Dallas. The dysfunction that became of the Eagles. And I don't even remember the other team in that division because it's so bad.
It's the Giants.
Exactly. Again, another team that was decimated by injury. You lose a Saquon Barkley. And oh, goodness, Daniel Jones. But that was definitely the case of a who wants it. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case again this year, but I do like that prediction, Derek. I do like that. I do like that Washington has a legit shot. And when you've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, you're going to get 30 touchdowns. You might have 35 interceptions as well, but you're going to get at least 30 passing touchdowns.
He'll get you like 20 interceptions.
I can't believe he's been in the league this long, hasn't been in the playoffs. That was the most shocking part for me. But yeah, I like that. Dallas it's them in Dallas. And
actually, I wouldn't be surprised with the Giants. The Giants have a great defense there. They're getting some offensive play back there. The Cowboys still have holes on the defensive side of the ball, even with their good draft. They're young there, so I think that's yeah.
Yeah, but I love that one. Kevin, let's go to you. Who do you got here? What's your bold prediction?
The Indianapolis Colts will have 3 receivers finish as wide receiver 2.
Whoo! How you
Paris
see that?
Spicy.
Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton, and Michael Pittman. All 3 will finish in wide receiver 2 territory.
Wow. Who's your top out of those 3?
Pittman. He's going to be
Pittman.
the alpha go-to. Ty is going to be the veteran leader that soaks up that garbage time need to get open can be. And Paris Campbell, I'm banking on a lot of health from Paris Campbell, but there has been so much pump, even from the end of 2019 coming into 2020 for Paris Campbell. Like they are waiting for this guy to get healthy and unleash him. And he's going to bring a dynamic to this offense that they just didn't have the last couple seasons. I like Carson Wentz as the quarterback there. Like, I think it's a good fit. So all 3 wide receivers will finish in wide receiver 2 territory.
So if all 3 finish there, that means Carson Wentz is top 10, essentially.
I can easily see him QB1.
You can hit
Or pretty close.
It's 20. It's 20. What? It's 28 touchdowns to 9 interceptions and call it 3,800 yards or something like that. I mean, that Colts defense is good. They're going to have the ball a ton, so they're going to be able to do it. They're going to have the situations where Jonathan Taylor is going to be able to set things up. They'll start stacking the box early in the season against Taylor, and if Carson Wentz can find his rhythm with an amazing offensive line, much better than anything he's had in his career, he'll start finding these guys. And watch out, the fireworks will start flying in Indy this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I'm curious if there's ever been a team with 3 top 24 receivers and a top 12 back before in fantasy. Like, that could not have happened very often.
No, I thought the Cowboys could have done it last year, right? If Dak would have stayed healthy, but obviously that didn't come to pass. It's hard to find a team going back that had 3 receivers of this caliber. I mean, even with some of the dominant teams, the Patriots never did. The Broncos didn't when they were winning Super Bowls. The Cowboys back in the 90s, that was still smash mouth, right? So you had 1 receiver, and even before that, the Steelers. So more smash mouth. So current era, I don't think we have, but records are made to be broken.
Yep. And they don't have a superstar receiver to hog up targets either, which is nice. Like that kind of keeps them all like below
yet.
that.
Not yet. Pittman's going to be knocking on the door.
I love it. All right, Alex, let's get one from you. What you got for me?
Well, in honor of Derek going with the boldest prediction, I'll start with my boldest prediction, and that is no team will finish 8-8 this year. Pause for effect. Of course, no team is going to finish 8-8 this year.
You say that? Watch, someone's going to finish 8-1.
8-1, right? We'll have at least one. But that's different. That's 8-8-1. That's not 8-8. My bold prediction, and this is real. I'm talking myself into it, even though I think it's asinine and it's very, very unlikely that it's going to happen. All 4 teams from the NFC West will qualify for the playoffs this year.
Whew.
That is a little spicy.
With the new playoff system, you get 3 wild cards, right? So you've got your division winner, 3 wild cards. Now it's going to take these teams cannibalizing each other in the most precise way to get to their win totals, and the rest of the league being just absolutely terrible and cannibalizing themselves as well. But I could definitely see all 4 NFC West teams, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Niners, and why am I so bad at coming up with 4 of them? The Cardinals. And the Cardinals and the Niners, you know, if they could have just been a little bit more consistent last year, the Niners, if they wouldn't have had all those injuries to key guys, those are all 4 playoff caliber teams that have improved over the offseason. So it's going to take a lot of help from around the rest of the conference, but all 4 of those teams are playoff caliber, and I think all 4 of them get in.
I like that. That.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I do. All those teams are pretty good. They take a lot. I like that a lot. Awesome, guys. So we're hopping on our favorite section of the night. It's the forgotten fantasy player. I can't remember which one of you guys said you had one that was a little personal towards the other.
Derek has one, and I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave when I talk.
Derek, we are starting with you because
okay.
I hate
so
this guy.
let me regale you with a tale of wonder here. So, fantasy player that has retired, right? He was never a big name for fantasy, never made a huge impact. Really, he had one game for fantasy purposes, and the one game couldn't have come at a more glorious time. It was called Championship Week. Back in 2012, let me take you to New Year's Day, 2012, where a guy suits up to start in place of a Hall of Famer whose team is sitting him for the final game of the season, and he proceeds to uncork, going 31 on 34 attempts for 480 yards, 6 touchdowns. That guy, you probably have already guessed, is a guy named Matt Flynn. And that won me the championship game over one Mr. Alex in our home league.
There was a lot that came out of that game. One, on top of me watching Matt Flynn go bonkers, I'm sitting watching the most boring football game I've ever seen in my entire life. I was in the crowd, and it was the most boring football game I've ever seen. And I called high school football for a season. I was on the radio calling high school football games in the third smallest class in Colorado. And the most boring football game I've ever witnessed was Tim Tebow and the Denver Broncos taking on Kyle Orton and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that game finished 6-3 or 9-3. It was a field goal fest, and it was terrible. And the best part about that day, after watching Matt Flynn go crazy and beat me in the championship game, the best part about that day was we all sat around and watched the Chargers. I think the Chargers beat the Raiders, and it still got the Broncos into the playoffs. It was those two teams. It was the Chargers and the Raiders playing each other. Whichever team won knocked the other out, and it meant that the Broncos qualified for the playoff. And then we all know what happened in those playoffs, where Tim Tebow's magic on first down in overtime. Yes, against the Steelers, which spawned one of my most favorite internet videos of all time. If you guys haven't seen it, it was a trend that happened, and it's probably in poor taste, but it was the documentary, or not the documentary, the film of Adolf Hitler trying to tell his troops of what's going to happen. And they changed the subtitles on it to say, "No, I want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch the Steelers-Patriots game." And then there's that tense moment where his commander, who I think in real life, or in the story, is telling him that they don't have that spot anymore, whatever their army was doing. But the commander tells Hitler, the character, that the Broncos won the football game. And that leads to Hitler's epic tirade. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you just YouTube it, put it work. But it's one of the funniest videos on the internet to this day that I have seen. And there are a lot of funny videos on the internet. But yes, Matt Flynn killed me. And because of that, we changed our fantasy championships to week 16 instead of week 17, because I did not want to see that happen again. And I was vocal enough to get everybody else, or most of everybody else, on my side so that the league rules changed. So Matt Flynn is a league-changing quarterback. That performance changed our entire league.
And the best part about it was I was the heavy underdog going into that one. So it was
huge underdog, because you didn't have Aaron Rodgers. You had Matt frickin' Flynn at quarterback.
Yep. Huge underdog going into that one. And I was just swinging for upside on that one, and managed to find a guy named Matt Flynn.
I will say there is a happy ending for those in my camp.
Nobody's in your camp.
Just 9 years later. Just nine short years later, I beat Derek in the first round of the playoffs as the 8th seed against the 1 seed, and then went on to win the fantasy champion. And I'm still the reigning champion of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football League.
That was the most personal one we've ever had on here. Kevin, for me, who's your forgotten player? Like we haven't somebody go directly at somebody else like that.
For what it's worth, I have not forgotten about Matt Flynn.
I don't think
I'd actually forgotten all about it. He's the one that keeps bringing this thing up for me.
I hate Matt Flynn.
So my forgotten fantasy football player is Sean Alexander. Sean Alexander is a guy that I have a special place for in my fantasy football heart. A young 14-year-old boy starting his very first fantasy football league, getting into it with his dad's buddies and kind of just saying, hey, you want to do this? And okay, sure. I drafted Sean Alexander and a bunch of other guys. I couldn't tell you who else it was. But Sean Alexander carried me that season, and I ended up winning the championship in that league, really not having a single idea of what I did, just starting Sean Alexander. And from that day through the rest of his career, I really got stuck on him. And looking back, he had a great career for Seattle. He was a touchdown machine. He was a guy that caught the ball well out of the backfield for him. And he's a guy that I will always hold near and dear as my first. So for me, it is Sean Alexander as the forgotten fantasy football player.
He was he was one of the first super well-rounded power backs and a little bit of everything. I remember when I started playing fantasy too. He was so good. Love Sean Alexander. Alex, it's good to you here. Hopefully you have somebody that'll bring a smile to your face for your forgotten player after that earlier.
Matt Flynn.
After you're able to say I'm okay with it, but who you got for me?
Okay, so I'll go with a guy that's kind of near and dear to our hearts as Bronco fans, who then had one impossibly awesome season, turned it into a Madden cover, and then off the face of the earth. And that is Peyton Hillis, who was awesome. And for guys like us, we were on kind of this Peyton Hillis train, and in our league, especially leagues that were based from guys that were Broncos fans, he was hard to get because we all kind of knew who he was. And he had a decent year, his rookie season, and didn't do so hot that next year. But when he went to Cleveland, that season that he put together in 2010 should go down as one of the best one-hit wonders of all time, because he ran the ball for 270 times. He had 1,177 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns, and then he added almost 500 yards through the air and another 2 touchdowns receiving. So that Peyton Hillis was one of those guys that if you got him and you had him in 2010, he was your favorite player. And I think he, in the league that we have keepers. And so somebody probably picked him up waiver wire. Might have even been me. I'm not going to lie. Picked him up waiver wire, had the most amazing season that he could have ever dreamed of having, and then disappeared into oblivion after that. And he was probably a keeper for somebody, and it probably did not work out.
Yeah, he literally just disappeared after that season to never be heard of again. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you coming on. Let's go around the room. Tyler, I guess we find you guys all at the same place. Derek, tell us where we can find you guys, and let's go.
Yeah, you can. For you. Yeah, you can find us at GoodOldBoysFF on Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, where I've got the YouTube channel, the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel, and the website, GoodOldBoysFF.com.
Anything you guys want to put in on that?
That kind of covers it. We appreciate you having us on. It was a lot of fun kind of going down memory lane here. And we
appreciate you bringing up
fun.
Matt Flynn for me. Ruined the rest of my night. No, this hockey game I'm about to go watch better turn out better than I got to erase Matt Flynn.
Well, you're welcome for that. And guys, thanks. Well, I guess, Derek, you said you're welcome for that. But guys, thanks for coming on. Catch us every Wednesday night at the Armchair Fantasy Show. And we'll catch y'all next week.